Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of January 15th to the 21st of 2024. All right, so this week we are continuing with the lunar cycle that started last week. Around Thursday, we had the new moon last week, and so we are starting to implement any new perspectives and just the fresh new energy from the later part of last week. We will be coming into the first quarter moon around Thursday of this week, meaning that it's a good time to start to challenge ourselves and implement these new beginnings. And then most of the aspects are concentrated over the weekend. On Friday, we have Venus squaring up to Neptune while she goes over the galactic center. So some of our values perhaps transforming. It's good to find healthy ways of finding peace in our life and maybe in our relationships as well, some transformations and some healthy ways to find peace and acceptance there as well can be constructive. But with that, on Friday, Mercury is trining Jupiter, which is more expansive, especially with the Sagittarius energy we have at the moment. So a larger perspective on life, maybe seeing the bigger picture with things, and maybe some possibilities to be thinking about there with that one. Then on Saturday, the sun goes over transformative Pluto, and so there's likely a transformation to our self-expression. This is as the sun starts to go into Capricorn into Sunday, and so a shift of focus going into next week around cultivating a bit of maybe responsibility, some commitment, and some long-term sort of energy. All right, so let's go and take a look at all this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here's the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, January 15th. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. You will notice a lot of the signs are different here. So if you are new, definitely check out that link down below for more information on using the visible sky called True Sidereal Astrology. All right, so let's do a little bit of a recap here to see where everything is coming into the week on Monday. We just had that new moon late last week, and so we are just building momentum in the new lunar month with new beginnings, new perspectives, and any new intentions we set since around Thursday of last week, Thursday, Friday. And that's really the energy coming into the week. No major aspects at first, but with the sun and that new moon being in Sagittarius, it's been, and it's going to continue to be this week, a great time to really expand our perspective on life, doing things like maybe philosophy, spirituality, things like astrology, things that are more abstract in nature are usually quite good. And anything that is about expanding our literal horizons sometimes too, whether it's a little bit of adventure in our life, all these kinds of things can be quite fantastic. Not only with the sun there, but also Mercury and Mars also in Sagittarius. Mercury now well set in Sagittarius coming into the week, really adding to that free-spirited nature. Venus is in Ophiuchus, again passing over the galactic center once we get to closer to the weekend. So Venus represents both our values and our relationships. And so here it's in the healer constellation of Ophiuchus. So it's a great week for really seeing the value of deep diving, the value of healing in our personal and interpersonal lives as well. And so anything that is about either connecting to life or connecting to other can be quite healing and transformative. So any intentions around that is also fantastic. All right, and then again, as you can see here, most of the important aspects are concentrated here over the weekend. We do have some sextiles leading up to that weekend we'll talk about here. But let's go ahead and start with Monday the 15th. We've got the moon entering Pisces. So for the first few days of the week, it's really good for a little more receptivity in general. Pisces is all about connecting more to our soul and to the more soul developing energies of life, spirituality, following our intuition, creating a bit of space and presence in our life. So following that more soul-guided approach, I think, is great, and probably noticing some themes around connecting to things like the ethers, or what's soul fulfilling for us, or the spiritual dimensions or intuitive or creative dimensions with the moon here. Now the sun will be sextiling Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, on Monday, really supporting that Piscean kind of energy. Nothing major here, but just an opening to cultivate some of that receptive energy in healthy ways, maybe with the sun expressing ourselves in ways that are a bit more receptive unconditional accepting. And it's just all in all, I think, good to challenge ourselves with that kind of Neptune and Piscean energy all week, because as we'll talk about once we do get to the weekend with Venus squaring up to Neptune, that'll be important there as well. But again, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with the moon in Pisces there. Once we do start to get into that Thursday time, the moon will go into Aries, and this is when we start to enter into the first quarter moon of the lunar cycle, which is usually where we come to our first challenges of the lunar month, and it's just really good to challenge ourselves. And so setting the intention to take some action, take some initiatives, especially with the moon in Aries, is a great way of working with this. So the first few days, more receptive with Pisces. Once we get into Thursday, probably more themes around proactivity, initiative, self-expression in the sense of pursuing who we are and what we want in life. Usually represents a theme with that, with Aries there. But first quarter, nonetheless, is good to integrate and catalyze things in our life, especially if they started around late last week. Now, along with this, we have another sextile with Mercury and Saturn. Nothing major, but our minds could be benefiting from a bit of groundingness, anything productive, or anything that involves language or communication that could be responsible, could be constructive, could be a great way of working with that opening there with that one. So once we do get into the weekend, the moon will still be in Aries on Friday here with themes around initiative, and of course still in that first quarter moon of integrating the energies of the lunar month. And here's where we come to the two aspects we have here, Venus squaring up to Neptune and Mercury trining Jupiter. So the Venus square Neptune, like I said, it's a good week to challenge ourselves with healthy receptivity. And I would say especially so around Friday, because squares do really call us to do so. They usually call us to take some sort of action or some sort of initiative on our part to develop the healthy qualities of the planet, in this case Neptune. So the healthy qualities of doing what is soul fulfilling in our life, connecting with our soul, listening to our soul, connecting to our intuition. And since Venus does often represent what we're enjoying and also how we're connecting to others, it's good to find the healthy ways of doing this. There's probably going to be collectively a natural tendency to maybe want to escape or hide away when it comes to enjoyments or connections. And so finding the constructive way of doing that, things like, spiritual activities, things like maybe intentionally getting some rest, being mindful about it, mindful in our day-to-day lives, enjoying more of that receptive approach, I think is great. And then when it comes to relationships, of course, practicing healthy receptivity there. So compassion, understanding, acceptance, still with boundaries, still with intention, but challenging ourselves to have a little more acceptance, a little more receptivity perhaps in how we're relating with others can also be good. And as a result of that, this can be a very constructive aspect, very integrating, and can help us really, again, enjoy and connect to life and others in that spiritual, receptive sort of way that Neptune helps us do that. Now, we do have the easy aspect there during that same time on Friday, which is Mercury trining expansive Jupiter. So especially with all that Sagittarius energy, but Friday will certainly have a bit of that expansive mind, usually able to see the bigger picture, the abstract world, and even communicate in a way that's a bit inspiring or forward-thinking. So this is the third and final contact with this since Mercury went retrograde over this point already twice. So it's likely to be easier to integrate, and it's likely to maybe even wrap up some things from over the past couple months. If you've been hopeful about anything, if you have been maybe thinking about things in terms of what's possible, and anything involving communications or day-to-day energy that has been perhaps a potential opportunity could also be solidifying around this time as well. So again, that's around the Friday time period with that square to Neptune as well. And then once we do get into the weekend, the moon will shift into Taurus, where the moon is exalted. So Saturday, Sunday, good for a bit of groundingness when it comes to cultivating our resourceful side. So Taurus is all about taking things one step at a time and stopping to smell the roses. And so it's a good time to cultivate our inner resources, like our own inner stability, inner strength, self-reliance, but also externally as well, connecting to nature, some sensual things, the natural world, the senses in general, connecting to Earth and everything she provides, I think is a great way of working with this. And of course, gratitude can really help us do that as well. So good weekend for that more earthy kind of energy. But we do have the sun going over Pluto. This is usually more neutral, but Pluto can be a bit challenging to work with, of course, as Pluto is the planet of transformation. This is, again, also around the same time that Venus will be going over the galactic center, which is also quite transformative. And so it's definitely a good weekend for a bit of willing to transform, willing to end and have new beginnings, both in general with the sun going over Pluto, but also specifically with, again, our values transforming with Venus over the galactic center, and perhaps even our relationships as well. So non-attachment really helps us do that. I think it's a good weekend to practice non-attachment. That's another way of saying to be willing to transform, willing to have endings and new beginnings, and that just helps facilitate the process. But of course, it's all for the best. And as a result of this, transformed values, more empowerment with our values, transformed relationships, more enjoyment or connection there. And with the case of the sun and Pluto, more transformation to our vital life force or our self-expression. So any intentions there, and again, just the willingness to do that, I think is great. And then as we go into next week, probably noticing more of that post-transformation energy, more of that empowered energy, especially now that the last planet, the fast movers, will be leaving Ophiuchus, the healer part of the sky, where we've had a lot of activity, obviously, recently over the past months. And then the sun already passed Pluto there. All right, so that is the weekend in a nutshell. One thing I do want to mention is as we do get into next week, here on Sunday, the sun will start to go into Capricorn. And so gearing up for a good coming months really with the fast movers as well, to focus on things that can be taken some responsibility with, some long-term commitment with when we talk about Capricorn. So Capricorn is all about seeing the long road. And so some new things there maybe starting to shift. And Venus, of course, then going into Sagittarius, will add to more of that enjoying of the more free-spirited realms and perhaps connecting to the free-spirited realms in our relationships as we go into next week. But that'll be mostly next week, but those shifts are starting around Sunday. All right, everyone, so that's the week in a nutshell. Put simply is that it is the first quarter moon of the lunar month. Good for integration, good for challenging ourselves, especially around that Friday into the weekend time period, because that is where the concentration of the aspects are anyways. In this case, practicing healthy receptivity in what we're enjoying in life and connecting to in life, and also seeing that perhaps there's some things to wrap up with having an expansive mind, or perhaps some opportunities that can be integrated. Once we get into Saturday, the sun over Pluto reminds us the importance of non-attachment and reclaiming power, that our power is only given away by choice, really, because true power is within, and that can't be taken away unless we give it away. And so practicing that non-attachment, practicing that self-empowerment can be a great way of working with this. And as a result, we do start to feel more of that post-transformation with Venus over the galactic center and the sun over Pluto finishing up as we go into next week. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're not yet signed up for MTZ Insiders, it is a free newsletter where you do get these videos released first before YouTube, and extra content, articles that aren't normally released on YouTube. So definitely check all that out down below. If you haven't yet, it's absolutely free to sign up, MTZ Insiders. But again, have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.